Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. So today I'm going to show you how to make a really cool pendant. We're only going to be using 3 wires. You need to cut 2 of those wires, which are 18 gauge round, 5 inches, and 1 wire, 20 gauge round, 5 inches. So you've got 3 pieces of wire, 5 inches long, 2 are 18 gauge, and 1 is 20 gauge. You want to mark the middle and then tape back about, just a little over 1/4 of an inch, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to wrap up to the mark. And then we're going to be sliding a bead in. So what's really important is you want to make sure that the wire, the 20 gauge wire, will fit in the hole of your bead. So you can use any size bead, but if you're going to use really big beads, you're going to want to probably have a little bit more wire. This is going to be a pendant. It could be 2 earrings, which I have made. And I can't see them here right now. I've got my entire studio around me, but hold on and let me see if I can find them. So I made these a long time ago. We're going to do these a little bit different, but these are in a very kind of native, Afrikaans, Native American, really kind of an old motif design. And we're going to be doing something different, but I just wanted to let you know where we're going, and we're only going to be using 3 wires. This is number 10 in my 2-week beginner series. So I'm going to keep it simple. This is definitely more intermediate, but this gives you an idea of where we're going to go with just 3 wires. So let's get started. You should have cut your wires. You want to put your middle 20 gauge wire. So your 20 gauge wire is going to be the middle, okay? And what you're going to do, and I'm simply using scrap wire, all right? So I've got myself some 20 gauge half round scrap wire. You can use weaving wire, but if you're going to use weaving wire, I would suggest to use a minimum of 26. You'd be better off doing it with half round because it's going to secure the wires better together. This is a similar concept like the earrings, but this is 7 wires. And I wrapped a abalone shells in here, and I used an 18 gauge half round. So that's just to give you an idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little hook. If you've never worked with half round before, it is cut in half. So this is a 20 gauge piece of wire that's been cut in half. So the back is flat, and the other side is the other half of the round wire, why they call it half round, and it's slightly domed. So I'm just going to make a little hook, and then I'm going to start wrapping. And I'm just going to push my wires together, just like that. And then I'm just, with my hand, I'm going to push it over until I can get control of my wire. And then I'm just going to rock it and swing it around. Then I'm going to turn my work around. I'm going to rock it over, and I'm going to come in. If you've been working with half round, then you know 22 is really a thin wire, right? 20 gauge will give you more control and also help you keep your wires closer together. I'm going to swing it around again. Then that little tail on the back, I'm going to swing it over. And I'm going to roll and crimp. So I rolled off the back of that wire and I crimped it. Now I'm just going to push them together and I'm going to slide them to my mark. And then I'm just going to start bringing it around. And if you notice, I keep turning my work around. All I want is 4 wraps. And then I'm just going to snug them up together, make sure they're good and tight, that there's no gap space. Then I'm going to swing that wire over. So when I do half round wire, everybody's different. I don't like my wire to hit the edge of the outside wire right here. I don't want it to hit that because I don't want it coming up. So I'm always going to cut back in. It's because I'm going to stretch that wire, and half round stretch is pretty good. So I'm going to come right into the middle of the 3 wires. I'm going to clip that out. I'm going to take a look at it and make sure that it's not too long. And then I'm just going to come around the back. I'm anchoring off that wire, and I'm just going to roll and cinch. And that's down good. It's good and tight. Now what you want to do, oh, and by the way, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And again, just a friendly reminder, this is my 2-week beginner series. It's going to be extending into 3 weeks because I had to take a couple of days off. So it's all for beginners, very, very detail oriented, and everything's going to be step by step. So now what you want to do is you want to separate your 2 outside wires. Your middle wire will always remain the same, and you're going to pull it all the way down so that it's completely parallel and on a 90. Turn your work around. So if you're right-handed, you want to turn your work around so you can get in your best working position. Hold very firmly at your wraps and just swing that wire down. So you should have this. Sorry, I have a piece of wire that just fell in my lap. Okay, let me scoot up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to slide my bead down. And, oops, that one hole isn't big enough. I might have to grab some other beads. Yep, looks like I'm going to, because that's just a little too tight, and I don't want to spend the time drilling them. Hold tight. Okay, so I realized I had 2 sets of beads out here, and I grabbed the wrong one. So your 20 gauge wire is in the middle, okay? I'm gonna can't seem to move my camera up anymore, so I'll try to figure this out. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to hold very firmly. You're going to keep your bead down. You're going to grab out here on the wire and swing it around. Now it's going to be a little floppy, and I forgot to tell you, you definitely want to tape your wires. You can do this with square wire, but for beginners, I found it's much harder for them to keep the square on the flat side. So you want something like this, okay? Then you just want to really push it down, make sure everything's good and snug. Then you're going to turn around in your best working position. I'm going to get my flat nose. So I'm holding the bead back with my hand, and I'm just going to squeeze that wire in a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to get my needle nose, and I'm going to come right here underneath the wire. So I'm coming up underneath of it because I need to get in a good working position, and I'm going to slowly start to roll it back to align it again with the middle wire. So we have this. Squeeze that in a little closer. Now, if you find it difficult to control your 18 gauge or you're not familiar with it, then just do it all in 20. You can't learn if you don't try. Now, I can feel my wires rolling back here, so I'm going to tape them again. Because round wire, the nature of round wire is it wants to roll. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm going to get in a good working position. I want to bring the wire towards me, not away from me. I have more control. My bead is slid back, but I need to cover it, okay? And I'm going to swing that wire using my finger to push it in all the way over. So I'm going to get in a good working position. I'm going to come around, get my flat nose and just squeeze it in a little bit. I'm going to come up underneath that wire right next to the middle 20 gauge wire. And I'm going to slowly, because I'm lining it up, so I want to see how it's lining up with the other side, slowly bring it over. Then I'm going to squeeze them together and just swing that out even a little bit more, and then push it back in. Now this one I got too much of a bend in it, and that's because earlier I had bent this wire. And wire has unbelievable memory. So it's remembering where I bent it earlier. So I'm making corrections, kind of come back in, Swing that in a little bit closer. So now I'm going to get my plier in here. I'm going to open that up and I'm going to flatten that out. These are really good techniques to learn to correct what you're doing. So I need to get that just down a little bit more. So I'm pushing it in a little bit more. Those are my flat nose. That may have been why I could have come in with my flat nose. Come really close. There we go. And you want to line them up so that your bead is encased by your outside 18 gauge wire or 20, whatever you're using. I'm just going to squeeze them in a little bit. Then I'm going to straighten my wires out. Make sure they're parallel. It's easier to do this with square if you're not a beginner and have worked with square because the wire won't roll as much. So I'm going to come in and flatten everything out. Pull my wires out here at the tip. So now what we're going to do, like we did before, I'm going to slide this wire up my half round because it naturally wants to slide down that round wire. Pull this one out. Let me get my plier. I just don't want it crossing over. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our scrap wire, hoping this is enough. Should be. And we're going to do our 4 wraps again. So I'm just going to swing that over, and I will have plenty of wire. I'm going to come in with my plier, and I'm going to cinch that down, rock this wire, and now I've got a little bend in this wire here, but that's okay. Just going to straighten it out. Line these up. Like I said, if you find it difficult with the 18, because round wire rolls, then please, by all means, use square. I'm working with a short piece of wire, so it's easier just to keep bringing that wire around than trying to use my plier at this point. So I've got room. Just flattening these out because they kind of rolled a little bit. And pushing them up. So I'm just going to bring that around. Cinch it down. I'm going to cut this one. I'm coming off the wire itself, and I'm rolling and cinching. So it's nice and tight in there. This one I'm going to bring around with my finger. And I'm just going to cut it, turn it around, and I'm going to roll and cinch. So let's lay it down. We kind of want to flatten it out because, as I said, round wire rolls. So we've got this really pretty wrap. You could stop at this point if you don't want to keep going any further. I mean, you could go so many places with it. You could bring your wires back up and over to the top and double wrap around. You could bring in more beads. I'm always going to give you inspiration, but let's continue with this pattern. So I'm going to separate my wires out again, rolling one down so that it's on a 90 and the other down so it's on the 90, and I'm going to drop my bead. So we have this. We're just repeating the pattern. So now, as before, I'm holding firmly on my bead and I'm going to swing that wire over. I'm going to turn my work around so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to come up underneath it and roll it back. Squeeze it in, straighten it out. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to bring that wire around. I can feel these wires in the back wanting to roll. And I'm going to come up underneath it and straighten it out. Then I'm going to line them up, squeeze them in, bring this one up. And I think I want to correct this one. Got a little tight around my bead, which it can be, but I'll just straighten it out there. Swing it back. And then I'll roll it in a little bit more. Now that wire looks a little tweaked, but we're not going to see any of that. So I'm going to come up a little bit higher this time. Start straightening my wire out. Let's take a look at that. That's better. Now I'm just going to straighten my wire out, and how you do that is you just go up and down the wire. Okay, that's better. Now I'm going to squeeze this side in and line them up. So give square a try if that's easier for you. So let me get some more 20 gauge half round. Okay, as before, we're going to do 4 wraps. Then, going to turn it around. I'll make sure I didn't grab 18 gauge there, because I have all my half round in one bin. My scrap. Now I'm going to straighten out this wire back here, line it up, cinch them down. Bring this little guy over, cut him back, and cinch him down. So the benefit of the square wires, it will hug the wire a lot better. And believe it or not, than the round. So this is rolling. Can you see this, how it's pitching down? So I'm just going to come in and flatten that out. Just want it nice and flat. Then I'm just going to bring this wire around and trim it. Then I'm going to rock off the back. You can make a beautiful bracelet out of this. Like I said, this one was done with 7 wires. I've done one with 9, and I did one with 11 for a guy. You have to use odd numbers when you're doing the wire because the middle wire never changes, and that's what you're using to slide your bead. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn around. We can just do these two. If you like this, we can stop there, or you can keep going. So I'm going to, let's see, do I want to stop here, or I'm going to do one more. I was going to do the whole thing, but I think it's just the practice of it. So I'm going to swing that wire over, and I'm going to swing this wire over. Now, here's a good tip. Sometimes when we swing our wires over, if we don't cinch down on our half round enough, it could lift up. So you always want to come in and make sure everything's staying where it needs to. And then I'm just going to make sure that they're not rolling. I'm going to grab my bead. And as before, I'm going to hold the bead and swing my wire over. Then I'm going to turn my work around. I'm going to come in with my plier right underneath. And I'm going to roll slowly so I can see how it's lining up. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, sliding my bead back, roll it over, bring my work around so I can see what I'm doing, get up underneath it and roll slowly, bring it back. Now we can just squeeze them together. And then we're going to wrap. Just straighten this one out a little bit more. So we have that. Isn't that pretty? Earrings, necklace, pendant, bracelet. You could definitely make a bracelet just with these 3 wires. So I'm going to get my scrap wire. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to start wrapping. So I've got the flat facing the wire. It's always going to be down against the wire. Slide that down a little bit. One more wrap. Actually, you know what, you guys? I wanted to do something different here. Sorry, so we're going to need more than just a little piece of scrap wire. Unless I can get away with that. Because I only need the center wire. So let's do this. I'm going to slide this up because I need to wrap this one more time on the bottom. If you've been following me for a while, you know by now I will change things up. Because I don't set out to practice doing this first. I just go, let's make something along the line of this that I've done before. Then I'm going to bring it around the back. I'm going to trim it. I just needed a couple more wraps. Cinch it in. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring, I'm wondering if I should bring it up. I'll tell you here in a minute. I'm going to bring this wire around to the back just temporarily, I think. I'm going to fold these over and fold this over. Then you have so many options. I have to stop thinking out loud because you have so many options. Okay, so this could be your earring at this point. We could roll these or curl them in. If you go all the way through the 5 inches, you want to leave at least a 1/2 inch on each side so that you can roll them in, and then you can add chain to make a bracelet. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fold this back, and I'm going to do that because this is going to be the bottom. I'm going to do that at right above where my wraps are sitting on the blue line. So my wraps are sitting on the blue, right above the 1/4 inch mark. So kind of in between the 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch mark. And then I'm going to come underneath that mark and I'm going to roll this all the way, woo, almost out of camera there, forward. Let me get out of that blow up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these together. I'm going to cut this now right at the end of that wrap. So right here at the end, I'm going to place my pliers at the end of the wrap and I'm going to cut it off. Then I'm going to get my flat nose and I'm going to squeeze it in. And I'm going to cinch this little tiny loop right here together. Very slowly, little bit of pressure. Now, if you jackknife it like I just did, which I was just going to explain to you, it's really easy to jackknife it like that. Just come in and straighten it out. Now I'm going to take this 1/2 round that I have left, and I should have just enough to accomplish what I want to do. And I'm cinching down that little bend there that we put. And then I'm just going to come around it And I'm going to wrap. Let's see, I got enough to do one more without twisting my wire. Bring that around the back. And then I'm going to cut it off. Really give that a good rock. And I'm going to tuck it in on the side. So I'm only going to leave a little tiny bit. I'm going to come in with my plier, anchoring off the wire and roll and squeeze and cinch it down. So we have this. Isn't that cool? Because we're making a pendant, this is going to be the bottom. But the reason why I suggested using 5 inches is so that you have a lot of room to work with, as well as being able to play and come up with your own ideas. So with these, I'm going to roll them down and I'm going to use my plier. And I'm going to use the number 2. And right there where the wire is already curving, you want to keep it on an even plane, okay? You don't want this turned like this. You want to keep it on an even plane. All I'm going to do is just roll that down and under. I'm going to roll it underneath it because I want to get a nice turn on that corner. I'm going to turn my work around. Same thing. And this time I'm going to roll it on top. So keeping it on an even plane. And I'm just going to roll it on top. I'm basically just creating kind of like a quasi heart. This is just giving me a visual of what I want to do. So now I'm going to come in with my plier, the number 1, on the outside, right here. And you can do this with your hand too. And I'm just going to swing that. I want to put a little bend in that. Just a little tiny subtle bend. Same thing here, right at the base of the neck. Just going to put a little bend in it. Okay. Now I can squeeze these in and together. So I'm going to come with my plier and I'm going to squeeze that in even more. And here, right at that bend, I'm going to squeeze it in. If your wire starts to roll, just come in and straighten it out. So this is too much length for what I'm going to do, so I'll let you know what that is in just a minute. I want this bent in just a little bit more. Right there. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to cut these, and then I'm just going to flare them out. And we've got gap space in here if you want to connect them, or you could hammer them. But I want to kind of keep it more simple. So I'm going to cut right. So you see where the bend is? Right below that bend, almost in the middle of the wire wrapping around the bead. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then I'm going to take a look. That looks pretty good to me. So now what I'm going to do, we could leave it like this, but we don't have enough wire to connect because that wasn't my intention initially. Or we can open them up. Now I'm going to put a further bend on this wire. I'm just going to squeeze it out. So I'm just bending it and squeezing it out. Now I want to really bend it. So I'm going to get my my flat nose plier. And right where that bend is, I'm going to make a very sharp bend. This is all step by step. And same thing over here, very sharp bend. Want a good sharp bend in that. So let's take a look. This one looks longer. So I'm just going to take, a rabbit hair. And these are excellent pliers for that. Okay, so I'm going to open this up again. Just by bending it away. which is going to roll on that tip even more. Now I'm going to gently harden this wire. You can do it with a rubber mallet, or you can do it with a hammer. I'm going to get my flat hammer, and I'm going to turn this over on my board, and I want it hammered so it doesn't move. I'm going to flare out the tip, and then I'm going to put this one on the board and hold it firmly. Let's see what we got. This one needs to be stretched a little bit more. I don't have a lot of room. Okay, how are they bearing up? Pretty good. So I'm just going to come up here, and I'm going to use the ball peen side of my hammer, and I'm working on the back, and I'm just tapping the wire and hardening it all the way down. Same thing here. And it's going to have a nice little hammered look back there. So my wire is nice and hard now. Now you can just come in with your fingers and squeeze them in. Now you can bring wire in here, but that's pretty hard. And because it's a pendant, the biggest concern is you don't want your wire catching up. And I'm going to open these back up because I forgot something. So I'm just going to open them back up. It's really important, if you're not using a tumbler, that you buff out any sharp edges. This is a 180 grit sanding block. It is construction grade, so it will outlast any fingernail sanding block. I promise you. I was a manicurist in my 20s for 9 years, so I still have a lot of that stuff. So if you're concerned, you can get your weaving wire. This is a really cool motif. It just lends itself to so many different origins. I mean, it reminds me of some African totems, Native American totems. So let me show you what you can do. You can get your plier in here, squeeze this back. You want to kick the leg out a little bit more, round it out more, because you're going to need that on the leg if you're going to bring them together and weave them. So I'm going to squeeze them in, flatten them out. Isn't that pretty? It's just such a cool look. I almost saw a crown there for a minute. I don't know what you guys are seeing. So this is where you would add your weaving wire. So I'm going to show you that very quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I want you, and you should know how to weave and connect, but I want you to get a good idea of what you can do. So I've got 28 gauge here, and I'm going to get my wire underneath, and I'm going to do 3 full wraps. So I've got my wire coming out the inside of the loop, so that gives me 3 full wraps. I'm going to slide it down. Then I'm going to swing the wire back over and around. It's going to give me 4, and I'm going to come up underneath. This is the top of our piece. And I'm going to come on an angle. So I'm going to angle the wire over the back of the piece. And then I'm just going to start wrapping. Now, the other thing that you could do is you could wrap in the opposite direction, but you would have to bring your wire through the loop each time. It's going to slide that up, get that a little bit closer in. And we got one more wrap to do. And now you don't have to worry. You have a beautifully connected piece. I'm just going to snap my wire. That's a wiggle jiggle. It will break off clean. Want to make sure that it's cinched in. And I'm going to crimp them together. This one's coming out the back. So I'm just going to do a wiggle jiggle. And I'm going to put this in my scrap envelope. One of the great things you can do, you guys and girls, is get big envelopes and mark them the gauge. And then you can keep all your scrap in that instead of a shoebox. So I have all my gauges on envelopes. I'll show you one in this size envelope, this biggie. This measures 8 by 7. And I keep all my 28 gauge weaving wire in there. I just don't mix my sterling with my copper. I have separate packages or envelopes for that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape off. At this point, decorating could be anywhere, whatever you want to do. I'm going to pull my tape off. And I'm just looking at it thinking, how do I want to change up this design? It's going to be a rather long pendant at this point, so I'm not going to be adding another bead. But with that 5 inches you cut, you could have easily made a big loop down here so that you have an area to put your chain in, or leave this more open before you cinched it off, okay? Or you can double up on your chain. You can have chain coming up to a V, then you would have one jump ring holding the 2 pieces of chain together. So I'm going to give you lots of really creative ideas. And then you'd have this little 4.5 inch, which would be the perfect length, sitting on your wrist with the chain coming around underneath. It would be very, very pretty. So now what do I want to do? I think I want to decorate a little bit because this is sitting at about 1.5 inches in length. And some people like really long pendants. So on this one, because we're going to have it as our bail, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come above the wraps and I'm going to swing this back. And I'm swinging it towards me because I'm going to make the bail in the opposite direction to come around the back of the piece. So now I'm going to grab my 6-step bail making pliers and I'm going to use my number 4. So this is the number 4. You want to make sure your wires are all lined up beautifully. And I'm going to swing it up. So I'm pushing on that wire. I'm not using my plier to turn it. I'm using my hand because I've got plenty of length on this wire to create a beautiful bail. And I also need to get isn't that gorgeous? It's just beautiful. I also need to get my my cord through there, or my chain through there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend these right here all at the same time, where the wraps and the bend where I made for my bail. So you can come in, if it's easier for you, with your marker. So here's the bend right here, and just approximately, that's going to tell me where I want to bend my wires. So I'm going to hold firmly. Now you can do the outsides and then the middle, or you can just do the 2 in the middle and then the outside, or you can do them all. I'm going to hold firmly, and even though the plier, so these are needle nose and they get wider as they go down, so I'm going to have to compensate that, and it'll make sense in a minute. I'm going to have to compensate for that when I bend these over, because on the right it's going to have a sharper bend. I'm just coming up underneath the wires with my finger, and I'm going to just bend them up. Now this is where it's not bent as sharp because the plier was wider back here. So I'm just going to come here in the first 2, and I'm just going to come up underneath it and bend it up. Now I can swing them together. So we have this beautiful bail. Just rolling that back. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to bring them together. So now I'm going to come in with my weaving wire. I'm going to use 26 gauge. You don't need a lot, 6 inches or so, unless you want to do a lot of weaving. And I'm going to come, let's see, I think what I'm going to do is hide my wire. So I'm going to bring this wire, holding it on the side, bring this one around. So I have control over my wire, and I'm going to bring them together. I did 4 wraps. This one back here, I'm going to wrap around the legs, but I want to hide this one here. That should work. So let me cinch up on that. You want to pull good and tight. 2, 3. Now I'm going to separate out the middle wire. So I'm going to put my plier back in here on my number 4. And I'm going to take these 2 wires, and the wires on the outside, I'm going to separate them out just to get them out of my way. We'll be separating them out even more. And I'm going to roll this wire up, and I'm going to cut it and tuck it in right there. But I need to wrap it around this first so I have something to tie off on. So I'm going to flatten it down here. Want to really flatten that out. You see me slowly cinching that in. Straighten it out. Now, I'm going to come up underneath it because I want to wrap around it. I got my 4 wraps there. Yeah. So I'm going to come up underneath it. Do I want to come? No, I'm going to stay under. Sorry, you guys. And I really want to cinch that down more, so I'm going to get my flat nose. I'm going to straighten this out by actually putting a bend in it. By putting a bend in it, these are really good techniques. It'll allow me to flatten it against, see that? How much closer it is? It'll allow me to flatten it even more. So now I'm just going to wrap 3 coils. Okay, then all we're going to do is snip it and roll it over. We're just going to take off. I'm sorry, we're just going to leave a little tiny bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And I'm going to, not going to snap that because it's too close for comfort and I don't have enough room to really do what I want to do. And then I'm just going to cinch that wire up. I'm going to grab at the tip of this wire here, and I am squishing it down a little bit, and I'm just going to fold it over. So you have this. Then I'm just going to get my plier. This is my flat nose, and I'm going to cinch it in. And this is your pretty little back. So you got that pretty little back. Now we can tuck that in even more, just coming underneath the tip of it. So now we're going to decorate. I don't think I'm going to need this here. I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, I don't think I need it, but I need to tie off. So I'm going to really open up these legs. I'm going to come around to the front and I'm going to roll my bail back because it got pitched forward a little bit. So I'm just going to roll it back. Much better. Okay. And I'm going to hold this in such a way I can have more control over it. I'm going to put my fingers, and I'm thinking about this as I'm going, you guys, that 18 gauge, I think for beginners on the round will be really hard. So maybe do 20 gauge, either 20 gauge square or 20 gauge round. I need to tie off, so I'm just lining this up, straightening everything out. I'm going to turn around in my front. So I'm going to tie this wire off on these legs. That's 3. I'm going to cross over. So I just did a little figure 8. 1, 2, and 3. Just pushing them up, straightening up my little loop here because I was pushing on my wire really hard. And then I'm going to come around and I'm going to trim it. And then I'm going to stretch that wire by anchoring off the wire, rolling and cinching. And it will stretch that wire to the inside. And if you cinch good, you want to roll it. See, I'm turning my piece. I don't feel anything. So now we're just going to decorate. I'm just going to straighten that bail out again. Isn't that pretty, y'all? So we can simply, if you don't want to at this point, you can cut these. You can bring them in the bail and cut them off, meaning you can tuck them in the bail, inside the bail here. You could easily do that, just pushing that down and lining those up. But I am going to, let's see, I'm getting a little more and more intermediate as I'm going. I think I'm going to do the same thing I did down here, but change it up a little bit. So I'm just going to use my finger. I'm holding very firmly, and I'm going to swing that up and over. I like that. And I may just cut it right about in here. So I'm going to turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. Swing that up and over. This one came in a little bit tighter, so I'm going to rock back out of it. I just keep thinking that it may be a real struggle with the 18 gauge round. So this one I'm going to swing out. Just want to cut them evenly. Swing that in a little bit. Okay, now they're lining up beautifully. So I have a couple of options here. I can just roll them into pretty little loops. I could literally tie them together here and bring them back down, but I really don't want it to be more advanced, and I know I keep pushing that way, and I don't want to do that. So I need to really firmly press down on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay this down, and you don't need a lot of length. So the bottom of the loop, so right here, that little heart shape right there, okay, is sitting on the 1 inch square line. And I'm going to cut right above the 1/4 inch mark. So let me move this back so you can see where my 1/4 inch is. So I'm going to mark at the 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to turn it around. And I'm going to mark at the 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to look and make sure that my lines are the same. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it. Before you roll anything in, cut both sides first to make sure that they're even in length. And then we're just going to roll them in. So this one looks a little longer. Now before I do a complete roll, because I'm going to probably be cutting these more, I'm going to bring in my 1 step and I'm just going to roll it forward because I want to see what that would look like. Bring my 1 step, roll it forward. because I'm thinking about hiding these around the back. That's very pretty. So let me see. I think we can do that. And they don't need to be connected because they're going to be sitting on the neck. The only thing that I would do is maybe make them just a little bit smaller. So let me just roll this over. It's little subtle movements. I like that smaller. Oh, you guys, if I was out of camera, I forgot. Oh, I forgot I was in the blow-up size. I was in a ×2. So I'm going to sharpen that up. Okay, I like that better. Just straightening out my bail. Okay, so see how they are in the back? I'm going to have to, if I messed up on that, you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm going to cut them down a little bit more. Even a little bit more. So we're really taking off a whole lot more than I intended because I keep changing up. And I think for simplicity purposes, we're going to squeeze them in with the flat nose. So what you're going to do is just grab at the tip of that loop and underneath the curve of it and squeeze it in right into the back of the bail so you're not going to feel anything. The tip of the loop and the curve of the loop and squeeze it in. Isn't that cool? It just gives it such a cool look. I really hoped you enjoyed that, everybody. I'm going to show you this in detail, and I'm sorry if I was out of frame on the last part. But hey, this is not easy for me to do. I'm not a fancy videographer. I don't know anything about editing videos. It's all raw, impromptu. So here's our beautiful pendant. It's just beautiful. Let's see if I turn my camera around, even though you're going to see all my tools back there. Isn't that pretty? And it's got just a very interesting motif to it. So I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Have a wonderful, magical, wire-wrapped day. Bye for now.